Hello and welcome back to this tutorial on live text. In this tutorial we'll add a web link to your portfolio if you want to share a website or other additional information with your viewer. I'll show you how you can actually embed that URL into your portfolio. So beginning with your portfolio open and the section and page open where you'd like to add your link. Just like with any work that we do on our portfolio, we need to start with the edit button. And when you get into the edit section, you're now able to edit the section text. And these icons are the ones that are going to be of most use to us in this particular thing that we're going to take care of. Now, everything else that you see on this toolbar should be familiar to you. Things like changing the font size and style and layout and arrangement and alignment, adding tables and so on. But the link button is the one that will enable us to add a link to a URL or a web page directly to our portfolio page. When you click on the link button, it will prompt you for the URL. Now you can go ahead and type this in from memory. This is the website that you'd like to take your portfolio viewer to, but instead of doing this from memory, I would encourage you to always copy and paste URLs directly into your web page window there so that you avoid any typos. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a link to the university where I obtained my PhD so I can share that with a viewer of my portfolio. I already have that web page saved, so I'm going to go ahead and simply copy and paste the URL that I'd like to share with my viewer. And I can use edit copy, or I can use the shortcut if I wish. So now I have that on my clipboard. So now when I go ahead and click on the link button, instead of typing that in, I can go ahead and use edit paste or the shortcut and put that URL directly in there so I know that I don't mistype it. Now there are a couple of other things that we can explore while we're on this dialog box. One of the things that you can do instead of adding a URL is you can add a link to your email address. That can be helpful if you would like to use your portfolio to drive traffic to, for example, your resume if you're job hunting. I'm going to go ahead and leave that at URL for our function. And the only other tab that I would encourage you to explore and experiment with is this target area. And this is what tells the portfolio how to behave when someone clicks on that link. You can leave it as it is, the default, so when someone clicks on that website it will simply take them to the site. But if I use, for example, new window, that will force the link to Brunel University, in my case, to open up in a new window, and so when the viewer actually is finished viewing that linked site, if he or she then closes that window, my portfolio is still open. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that at new window. If I just click back over to the tab, I can verify that the link to Brunel University is there, and if I click OK, then there is my URL, and that is a functioning URL if I click on it. Now if I want to actually see what someone viewing my portfolio will see when they try and click on that link, there is something I'd like to share that you can experiment with and use as you're testing your portfolio throughout this process. So if I save and finish, that's what my link looks like. There's my link to Brunel, and you can see it's a functioning link. But instead of actually clicking on that link here, I can actually see what a viewer would look at. So I clicked on that visitor preview button, and now if I click on that link, you can see that it did successfully launch the link in a new window, a new tab there. So if I close that, my link is still open because I chose that open in a new window. Now that's kind of cool. But what I would also like to be able to show you is that instead of actually having that URL be an exposed URL, what we'd call an exposed URL, instead perhaps I'd like someone to click on Brunel in that tagline above it rather than having that exposed URL. So what I can do instead of putting the whole URL exposed there is to highlight what I would like to be the link in an existing phrase on my page. So if I highlight Brunel and then click on the link, and then if I copy that URL in here and do what I did last time with that target, now instead of that exposed URL, which I can delete. I now have a link to that website in the sentence that I actually had accompanying my image, which looks a little more professional, I think. So if I click on Save and Finish now, and I can either preview it just as I did last time, or I can click it directly from this preview page in my portfolio. You'll see that I now have an option to click on that link within my portfolio. So to add a link to a URL, we click on Edit and we use the link icon. And you can either add an exposed URL by pasting that in, or you can highlight what you would like the link to be associated with in text that you already have, and you can do it that way. So go ahead and experiment with adding links to websites on your portfolio. It can be helpful, perhaps if you have a link to the syllabi on Franklin University's website. Perhaps you are a web design major or you're doing a focus area in web design and web development and you'd like to share some of your work. But either way, it can be a useful function to be able to share web material with a view of your portfolio. Enjoy experimenting with that feature.